Thank you. I'm going to just introduce Forrest. He is the development manager for Battelle and has been supporting scientific research for the last 20 years, mostly with in logistically challenging locations. And he has worked with installing remote sensing installations for the National Ecological Observatory Network. That's NEON. Operations and constructions of the ice cube neutrino detector in Antarctica at the South Pole. Has also worked on the Lowell Discovery Telescope in Happy Jack, Arizona. And his work has taken him to over 70 countries, and he's particularly interested in polar regions. He has a strong focus on community collaborations, indigenous culture and inclusion, workforce development, and STEM education. So please, welcome, Forrest. Thank you for coming and thank you for presenting to us today. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen if I can and just holler if it doesn't work. Everybody see that?
That looks good. I will let you know if the audio is causing any issue.
Okay, great. So just a couple of quick words about myself, and then I'll talk about Battelle and kind of get into sort of our who we are and the STEM work that we're doing both in lower 48 and then in Alaska primarily. So I'm Forrest Banks. I'm from I live just outside Fort Collins, Colorado, on a small farm with my wife and two kids, two grown kids that at some point will leave the home soon, I imagine. And yeah, I'm in program development for Battelle with a strong focus on polar regions. So, like Lisa said, I have a lot of time in Antarctica, and I'm pushing 10 years in the Arctic now for various government agencies and different programs. And I, just wanted to present today just a little bit about Battelle and sort of what we're doing, and have an open discussion on some lessons learned and see if some of our experiences could be a benefit to anybody as they're going into STEM in the Alaska region in particular. So Battelle, just real quick, we've been around 98 years. We're a nonprofit, or not-for-profit, I should say. So our focus is on scientific discovery, put our money back into research, development, STEM, and philanthropy efforts. We're about $10 billion a year company. We manage 9 of the national labs for the DOE. We've got about 10 locations. Yeah, we do, well, this number is off. We're close to 1 million students now this year in STEM. So I'll get out of the Battelle pitch and into sort of what we're all here to listen to. So our STEM education, like I said, it comes out of the profit that we make. It's part of our as part of our mission and part of our fund. In 2021, we were over 800,000 students reached, with a goal of 2025 to be over 1 million students. So we're beating that goal by 3 years. This year, we expect to top 1 million students served from a STEM funding standpoint. We have a number of STEM networks that we manage across the U.S. Part of our foundation is that we have to give money back into where our prominent staff reside and work. So we give a lot of our STEM money into Ohio. So we have an Ohio STEM network. We also have built several schools in Ohio and continue to do so. We just broke ground on an innovations institute for students as well, just a couple of weeks ago. We're running a STEM network in Tennessee that's in collaboration with Oak Ridge National Lab, and then we have a national STEMX network, which is multiple states, and I'll kind of get into the STEMX and where we want to go in Alaska with that here towards the end. We've done some just some recent investments you can see on this slide, but I think the most important for you to see is about, last year, about 15 million in STEM dollars were donated, and then we're at about 18 million so far in 2022. Here's again some of the networks that we operate. These are more oversight, management, collaboration, sponsorship sort of networks. We're not really doing development of curriculum. We're more taking existing and placing it in classrooms with partners. So this next slide, this looks like it was cut off on my screen. Can you see the whole thing? Meredith?
It's cut off as well.
Okay, let's see. What does a guy have to do?
I think we get the gist of it though.
Yeah, okay. So here are a couple of programs that I oversee in the lower 48. One is a stratospheric balloon program out of Sisters, Oregon, where the students launch payloads at about 130,000 feet, and then take the data from that and publish and present to scientists around the world, who then sort of judge and give feedback, and then help them kind of get into college. We've actually sent a number of students into stratospheric programs specifically around balloons at universities after graduating from high school and using this program. And on the right, we've got the Penn State and Morgan State sounding rocket program. So this started at Penn State, focused on bringing diversity into the astro sciences. And then we brought in Morgan State, who's one of our HBCU partners, to do the same. That's a new program this year with Morgan State. We're still seeing how that turns out, but so far so good. And then Who Dreams, Who Wins is a commercial. It's a nonprofit focused on commercial aerospace, out of Colorado, and in Huntsville, Alabama. Same thing, sounding rockets. So we bring the kids in, we develop the payloads, we engineer everything, we bring in NASA astronauts, folks like that help the students, and then we have launches at the end of the season. Kind of the same for all three of these programs. All right, I'm so sorry that this is cut off. I wish I knew how to fix that, but
If you want me to share my screen, I can,
Yeah,
but
see-
I think I can read all of the bullets.
yeah, okay, great. So this is focused on Alaska, and I'm not going in. The numbers are still coming in from 2022, but this is from 2021. So these are programs that we put in place as we started. So the NEON program and the NSF Arctic Logistics program. Once we started getting staff in the Alaska region, then we were able to move more STEM dollars into Alaska. We also have a couple of Army and Navy programs that we work up there in southeastern Alaska, and so that's helped us be able to continually invest money into the region. So far, just under 13,000 students impacted. We have an additional 600 students that were homeschooled in really remote, isolated areas that we're able to send laptops to and other equipment so that they can participate. Teacher education is very important to us, and that's actually part of the STEM grant process through Battelle, is that you have to, you don't have to, but we definitely consider programs that are going to impact teachers as well. And then right now we're in about 36 communities. So as you can see, sort of in some of the topics right now, from rocks and minerals to energy and renewables, sustainability, climate change, seismic hazards. We do have a program I'll talk about in a second that focuses on that, down even to 3D printing and CNC operations for tech school students out of Fairbanks, Alaska. So a couple of the programs, just kind of a quick overview of a couple of the programs that we, or nonprofit groups that we work with and help sponsor. So Alaska Resource Education, they're based in Anchorage and they work all over the state. And their focus is really the next generation of pipeline and for workforce development and STEM education, keeping the workforce in Alaska and giving high school students an idea of where they can go to work in STEM fields, primarily around natural resources. So we have they host a number of camp activities in classroom, a lot of teacher education activities, and we've been funding them for about 3 years. Going on 4 years. So you can see our first year, we were just under 3,000 students, and now we're just over 5,000 students served on that program each year. So as we grow and as we develop new methods and approaches, our student numbers increase, which has been really good to see. Another great program that we have out of the Chugach School District is a partnership with Chugach Foundation, which is also works with NOAA on the Alaska Climate Steward Project. So this is interesting. We've purchased over the last couple of years, we've purchased 15 smart weather stations. We've also done some seismic stations and sent them out to various locations, which you'll see here, Nome and Gavik, and even in Anchorage, all the way down to Adak. And then we have a network that the students are able to tie into and access all the data and publish off of and sort of look at local climate impacts and changes. We do that from all the way from data use for publication through the art side of STEAM, where the students work with elders in their community to talk about traditional knowledge sharing, as well as incorporating their cultural heritage with the data that they're seeing, and then they do art projects around that, particularly around painting. So that's been super successful over the years. We're at about 4,500 students in 2022. COVID has had a bit of an impact, but we've actually been pretty successful even during the pandemic, putting together online programs and getting everybody connected via this network, which has just been really great. Let me see anything else about this program. This program is operated by a lady that she was a fellow for the National Science Foundation, and her and her husband teach this together, and they're just fantastic. They're so passionate about it. They're a great example of a partner that I encourage you all to reach out and get for yourselves. Not necessarily Cheryl and her husband, but we met them at an Indigenous STEM workshop conference that we hosted in the lower 48, and they were just so passionate and excited about their program. They're very conscientious about the money that we give them, and they listen to the types of science that we're interested in and helping fund in ways that we're able to help expand the program. Really great partners. It's exactly what you're looking for, in my opinion, as you put together your programs. And then we'll just touch base a little bit on a couple of the NSF stuff that we do, where outreach and engagement are incredibly important and a part of the program. So for the Arctic Research and Logistics program that we operate for the National Science Foundation in Alaska, our job is to support researchers and their outreach. That's part of their grant. So a couple of projects here and they're cut off, but where we are helping the researchers with bringing together all of the students and helping them get into the schools and sort of execute their their grant programs that they've that they've written into as part of their science. This is really interesting, right? Because part of this is being able to also highlight opportunities that we already have in place that make it easier for researchers and other grantees that may not know how to go about getting into it and getting into STEM and supporting the local communities in a way that's beneficial. It's not, natural for everybody. So it's great that we have and we have a team that works directly with the NSF on this to help move this forward and support our researchers in the Arctic. One of the new things that we're working on is this creation of cultural training modules. This is going to be a digital interactive learning module for how to engage and interact with the local communities and respectfully collaborate with them based on their culture. So we're starting up in Utqiagvik and the North Slope and sort of expanding this as we go. This will hopefully be very successful. I'm personally very excited about this particular project. And then moving on, and if you have any questions, please just interrupt, throw them out there. We'll have time at the end though to talk. So NEON is a continental scale ecological observatory that the NSF funds and operates. We operate it for the NSF. We have for many years now, and part of that is as we kind of grew and got into the operational side of NEON, especially in the Arctic, we started looking at particularly how do we do workforce development with the local communities that these sites are in, and how do we help train locals to be able to not only maintain these sites but also to start doing sampling support and helping us do that, and then we're able to actually not only build our workforce the way that it should be, but as well as training the local communities also what we're doing, getting them involved in the actual research, as well as paying them, which is also really important, right? Job creation. We have in development right now, we have a couple of programs, additional internship programs with UIC Science out of Utqiagvik, and as well as we're working on this engineering program with ANSEP out of Anchorage and Fairbanks. Let's just kind of get going. Oh, that leads me into some consideration. So before we kind of get into the consideration side of things, I know I talk a little fast. Any questions, or I can skip back to some of the programs that we're currently supporting and give more detail on them. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Hi, Forrest. I would love to hear some more about the Alaska Climate Stewards project. How it's run, how long it's been going. Is it ongoing? Just any more
It's
details.
ongoing. Yeah. Let me get back to that. All right. Yeah, it is ongoing. In fact, I think it was running for 5+ years with NOAA funding. And then as that started to taper off is when we saw an opening, and Cheryl reached out to us to say, hey, we have this great program that's in place that we really don't want to lose, and we're short on funding. And we saw it as a great opportunity, right? It's already established. You have a partnership with teachers, educators that want to do it, right? And they're dedicated to it, and they've built a program that has clearly been successful. Lots of communities, which is important to us, right? Not just focused in single. We do a lot of single communities, but in Alaska, it's, you want as many students as possible, and getting 12,000 students in one community can be hard unless you're in Anchorage, which is actually kind of saturated with a lot of STEM, right? And so this has been great. So yeah, NOAA funding is still part of it, but we're able to offset that and actually expand the sciences as well. So we plan to. This has been so successful. This is actually a. We're very proud of this program. I do not see it going away anytime soon. I'll put it that way. We'll continue to fund this, and we've only given more and more money every year. I think we started kind of like, well, let's try $20,000, see where that gets us. We'll see how it works, you know, and now we're closer to doubling that, including doubling the student impact, and more collaboration with them on what kind of remote sensors can we put out there. What do the communities need? You know, what are you know, do you want to team with Smart Eyes out of Canada as an example, right? And what are the different programs that we can incorporate into this because it's been so successful, right? This has been highlighted actually internally at Battelle, which is, you know, we're pretty big, and this we've had multiple blog posts and internal advertisement about this program. There was a blog post that Meredith sent out, I think, in the invite that we just recently released. Take a look at that because they interview Cheryl in it as well, particularly on this. And I'd love to introduce you sometime if possible. And you're based, Christina, where are you based again?
I'm in
Fairbanks?
Anchorage.
Oh, Anchorage. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Meredith. And oh shoot, what was my question? Oh, so who builds and puts together the sensor packages and the weather stations? Is that Battelle? And how does that fit into the budget?
Yeah, so they're off the shelf, right? There's no reason to kind of recreate the wheel, but the students do the install. And
Oh, cool. Oh,
the
this
student-
is okay. Cool.
Yeah, so the students do the install, they do the coding, they own the network with the teacher oversight. So what we've done is purchase them off the shelf. We don't get super cheap units, but we don't get the most expensive. They're a couple grand each. And then we put the rest of the money into hiring educators to go to the communities and directly teach the students. Yeah.
Great. I'll wait until the updates, but I see a lot of overlap between a project that I'm on.
Great. Well, I'm in Anchorage in 2 weeks from now, and I'll be in Fairbanks and Juneau as well. And I look forward to, you know, if you want to meet and talk about collaboration, I'd love to.
That'd be awesome.
Yep.
Great.
Anyone else before I scroll down to other programs, projects?
Yeah, I just have a question for, and maybe you'll get to it later, but how is it that organizations, schools, research teams initiate conversations with Battelle about potential future collaborations and funding and good work?
I think it's a great question, and I wish I had like a simple answer for it. I'm going to give you my contact in the chat, and you can pass that around for now. But when it comes to the NSF, right, say like the Arctic program for the NSF, where they're funding researchers to go to the Arctic. We actually have a portal that we call a gateway, and I'll have to find if Jen's still on, she may have the website handy. I'm not sure if she's still on or not, but
I think she's dropped off.
but I'll find it and put it in the chat by the time the thing ends. And so researchers can actually go there and click and see opportunities and plug in and put their trying to grow that. We're actually building these gateway portals for other programs as well. And you can go on the Battelle website. But going on the Battelle doesn't mean people even know it exists, right? That's the problem, right? Because there's all this money and a partner out there that this is what we do with the, you know, you have a $10 billion a year company that gives their money back to STEM, right? And not shareholders. And how do you get, you know, if you have a great opportunity or a great idea, how do you partner with that? So you can go on the Battelle website. I'll put my contact on here as well. And then we're building these gateways where they have an education button right at the top, and you click that and it'll populate what we have going on. How can you get involved? Maybe you have the curriculum and the staff, maybe you don't, maybe you need it. And you just, I don't know how to get involved. Can I put up webcams in the field and talk to these students? Can I can I be part of a panel that looks at their research and talks to them about the type of science they're trying to do, right? Like we did on our balloon program. I think it's a great idea, and I think that we need to do a better job of getting our name out there, to be honest. I know that doesn't give you like, oh, go to npr.com and you know, .org and there it is, right? It's not as simple as that, but I can tell you that we take funding for our regional grants that I'm talking about here once a year, starting in grant applications start in August, September timeframe, with funding in March. Funding being you get the award in the winter, and then the actual check arrives in the mail. I think we're still old school like that, and like March, and then it needs to be executed by August. And we can give extensions and different things. So, and I work with my grantees. I say mine because they're just the programs that I represent. I work with them directly. I help them write the proposals. Normally one page. It's pretty simple with the amount of money, student impact, teachers involved, where you see the growth going. I think the other thing that's important is we rarely fund one-offs, right? So we recently funded a program in Fairbanks that wasn't successful. It didn't work, and I won't be funding it again. And I'll get to that here in a second. I'm going to go down to considerations. And Lisa, this kind of goes to you and
So,
I were talking earlier.
Forrest, just to add to what you said, so the PIs on the NSF grants have probably in some big old monster email something that says learn about this STEM thing with Battelle. I'm guessing in like some big bullet list. And so, but are they the ones that have the access to those portals? Just the PIs on the NSF grants, or is it their teammates?
That portal is open to the community. Yeah, I'll put the
Okay.
website on there and you can take a look at it. And I know it's still being built out. We have been operating that program for a long time now. Just, you know, it started in the pandemic, and we're just on our second or third field season now. So
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, I'll put that in there. But you know, Lisa, what you and I were talking about earlier, when it's like it's not easy to just give organizations money, right? I've got this first bullet, which is cut off, but it really just says it's not easy to just give money to people and expect them to sort of do the right thing. So we have and I won't go into detail, but we had a great opportunity in Fairbanks, and with a technical group, a technical school there to buy CNC machines, 3D printers, all kinds of technical equipment, and teach tech students that had you know how to operate them and get them into tech schools, especially around research support. And they only spent about half the money and told us it was too hard to find what to buy. They wanted to actually send us the money back, and it was really disappointing. We didn't accept it back. We told them to go buy the equipment, and the equipment got purchased and the program is underway, but we probably won't fund them again because they offered to send the money back. They didn't want to put in the work that it takes, even though they had somebody sponsoring them, right? So we've now gone out and found another organization in Fairbanks to do the same thing, and hopefully it'll be successful. But it wasn't as easy. You have to have really strong partners that you're working with. And so one of the lessons I've learned is you really, you know, do a little more due diligence on my part when I interview grantees that are applying, and other nonprofits, and make sure, you know, are they really ready to execute this? And if so, maybe don't give them as much money up front, help them get going, and then we'll see how the next years go, because there's a lot of other organizations that could use this funding, and there's only so much, right? So treating it more, that program I got really excited about, and I don't think I did as much due diligence as I should have. So I think I put that on there, Lisa, because it's just a really good lesson to learn, right? You can't just give money to people and expect them to do the right thing, or expect them to have the time or the energy, right? Having something already established, finding that partner in Anchorage, Fairbanks, even Juneau can go to those communities, especially in Alaska, and implement these. They already have the plans in place. They're just short some money, or they're short that big support that we can give them. That's not just oil and gas, right? not to knock oil and gas, but I just kind of did. Sorry. the, the so some other yeah, any other questions before I get into these considerations? So yeah, getting into long-term committed partners that are flexible, right? So you're going to want, when I talk about flexible, our programs change. Some things aren't a success. Sometimes you want the weather stations, and the next year you want, to do seismic or volcano, or you want to get into rocks and minerals, and maybe as a group, or you see where a school is headed in their curriculum. So I think getting partners, for instance, we can only donate our money to other nonprofits. So find other nonprofits that can be flexible with their curriculum and what they're doing, I think is really important. And then we're looking for long-term committed partners that are willing to grow with us, and not just look for a quick funding for 1 year and then move on, right? Listen to community needs. I think it's exactly why and how this meeting was introduced to me. It was like, hey, we're looking to how do we get in with the communities, listen to their needs, and then execute, right, and help them out. It's really important that we get parents and the elders involved, right? It's really the main way to success. They get behind the programs, they get their kids involved. That it works that way in the lower 48 as well. It's important in my opinion. So workforce development, that's a huge one, right? I think so, especially as you get into with high school, we work primarily with K through 12. So in high school, getting into that, helping kids understand the various directions, whether it's natural resources, like mining and oil and gas industry that they're interested in going to, and how do you help them with the STEM components to those, to the research, right, and climate change and other, or even just directly working for government agencies that are overseeing programs, and helping them understand what that development is and helping them get there. So we have programs. We started an HBCU consortium where we're bringing in a number of HBCUs. We fund several $100,000 to them a year, and then they provide interns that are paid out of that funding. And we're able to send them to various Battelle locations on various programs across the U.S. To work and to help develop them as engineers and scientists. And we're working on starting to incorporate more minority institutes, native and tribal schools. So that can be really difficult. I mean, you can make a phone call, and the first thing that they say is, yes, we'd love your money. And it's like, well, we need a little more than that, right? This isn't just about money. This is a partnership to develop the workforce and to help you kind of grow your community and keep people in your community that want to stay. And how can we work together on that? So that can be a long process. And I ask everybody for a lot of patience, but you have to have a lot of patience and give it a lot of time. And we're showing, at least in our first few years of doing this in Alaska, that's starting to really pay off. Partnering with programs in the lower 48 and seeing how they can help you expand into Alaska. I'm going to talk to them about that in 1 second. I have an opportunity that we have, and maybe some of you have an idea, because I can't seem to execute it yet in Alaska. So I'm definitely looking for a partner on this. But taking, for instance, our stratospheric balloon program in Oregon, taking that up to a community in Alaska and working with a high school up there to do the same thing. I mean, there's you already have a playbook that's been funded, that's been created, that you can now go plug in and execute in a lot of these other communities for to help expand that sort of research and science and experience for those kids. and that's sort of the last bullet, you know, create programs that others can plug into, right? So for us, as I think about creating anything from scratch, I want it to be something that anybody on this call and part of this team can just plug right into, right, if they're interested. And it helps jumpstart folks that just they're not sure what to do. They want to help, they want to participate, but they're not quite sure. Well, then let's create some programs that people can just jump into and be part of. So sort of, I guess the last, oh, that's it. That's my last slide. But so when we go back to STEMx, I kind of wanted to end with this. This is an opportunity that we have coming up. So you'll see STEMx here in the corner, and a number of states. We want to expand that into Alaska. So I've been working. So we're looking for, and I'll Lisa, maybe I'll email you some text on this that I can share with the team. But we're looking for a partner to help us execute it at the state level. So we sponsor and help with the oversight, but we really need somebody on the state level that has ties to a number of networks, and all the way down to the various schools and community members that can get involved in Alaska. So we're really looking for a nonprofit that's big enough to take on a STEMx network in Alaska and help implement it. So STEMx is, does everything, sort of standardized curriculum. They work with these lower 48 schools to sort of lessons learned and using existing STEM curriculum across all of the network, and to sort of work together to a big boost of energy of STEM into a community. So we're looking to expand that into Alaska, and I'll send Lisa some information on that. Maybe she can pass it around and see if we can find a partner to help us sort of move in that direction. We're also looking to expand to Hawaii, but maybe the wrong group and talking about the Arctic.
Thanks. We'd be happy to share that information.
All right. Lisa, I'm not sure where I'm at on time, but I'm happy to take questions, and that's sort of all I had today, and would love to talk to people online or offline, whatever you want to do.
Do we have other questions? Does anybody
Yep.
want to ask?
Sure. I put a question in the chat, and it was about the cultural training modules, and just maybe getting a little bit more context on those. My question was if the cultural training modules would be broadly applicable to researchers, or I guess who they're aimed for specifically, if I missed that, and if they would be applicable across disciplines, and how and who would have access to those trainings as well.
Great question. They are for both new researchers, new support staff, and folks that have been going for 30 years. From support logistics staff, like the folks at Polar Field Services and Battelle and the other groups that do a lot of Arctic support, UIC and other village corporations that may be supporting science, to researchers that have never been or have been up there for a long time. It's broad and it's definitely focused on the community, and what they're, what is it like to go into that community. So you're not going in blind, you're being respectful, and it's not just hey, read this document before you go in and make sure that you're being respectful. But here's when they're hunting, here's the impact to the community that your science could have. Here's why maybe a community hasn't been happy with you in the past, right? And as researchers coming in, and how you can avoid that. So there's a number of things that's just being built out now. Right now, it's being worked with the NSF. So that's an NSF. It's part of the Arctic program that falls under the Office of Polar Programs. And I can't speak for that program. And Jen's not on, but maybe Lisa can touch base with her on that. But I can reach out to our program officer and see. will that be available to the community outside of just the support contract itself and the researchers leveraging it? I hope it is, because I think it'll be a really valuable tool, but I can't answer that right now. Did
And
that
I-
answer everything?
Yeah, it did. I just had one follow-up question. And I see Lisa might have some more information to add to that. So I'll let Lisa go and then I'll ask my follow-up question.
No, I just said I don't know whether that will be available to people outside the PI community, but go ahead, Meredith.
Yep. I guess just are the cultural training modules then specific to different communities?
It's what the goal is. Yeah, we're starting with a broader North Slope community, and then we're going to narrow it down and start, going out, including, I think the end goal is including communities in Greenland and other Arctic nations.
Okay, thank you.
It's a long process. We'll see how it goes, but it's going in the right direction. I'm really proud of our team, because I think this is, and the NSF, because I think this is something that's been needed, and with the NSF support on this, I think it's really great. I think it's definitely going in the right direction.
And I had a question about your curriculum that you're supporting. It looks like you've got a variety of topics. Do you provide the curriculum, or do you just help people implement stuff they want to do anyway?
Yeah, it's really implementing stuff they want to do and what the community needs, right? So that's where the partnership comes in. Finding a partner in Anchorage that works in, say throughout the North Slope, that's great. And you probably need a partner in the North Slope that knows what the community needs more up there, right? So so we'll talk, when Alaska Resource Education goes to Ukavik as an example, they normally call me first to say, hey, what do we have going on up there outside of what our standard curriculum is? Where are you guys at? Sort of, what teachers it's tough, right? Because the teachers turn over a lot in some of these communities, and so you have to have this this continual dialogue with the community and have these partners in place that are on top of that, so that the programs can keep moving on. I think that can often be a hesitation for the communities to bring something on, is because a teacher is overwhelmed and they're only going to be there a year or two anyway, and then they're moving on. And so how do they, is this really what they want to tackle? So I think for us, it's really important that we talk to the teacher, find out what they're teaching. How can we help support that? Well, we've always wanted to do, I have a school in Oregon that always wanted to do water quality analysis for lakes in the Cascades. And they were like, well, but we don't have, so we bought them some canoes, we got some underwater drones, we got some sampling equipment, and now they take 20 kids at a time up to the lakes, and they go out and they're able to execute the science that they wanted to. And that's because that's something the science teacher wanted to do, but it never didn't know how to execute it. So she just asked me, what should we do? And so we did it. And that's how that went. And with like the Chugach school district, Lisa, and what Cheryl's doing, that's all what them and Noah had already been planning, right? And we just kind of able to add things on. So.
Great, thank you. And I think we're at time. Kaya, I'm going to call on you next.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Forrest. I know we just have a few more minutes, but you touched on this briefly, Forrest, and something that we've been grappling with in IARPC, and wondering what your thoughts might be on long-term sustainability, and particularly for communities in Alaska, where that continuity is important, and that continuity requires kind of capacity building in terms of somebody constant who is known to the communities. And that's hard to achieve with funding that's specific to a project. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Huge challenge. Agree. We've run into that. I think that a couple of our programs is finding those nonprofits that are trusted in the community. So for me, that's sort of been our approach is, you know, we found people that have already worked in the communities, that have been there for a long time, are trusted by the elders in the communities through the school district to and are you know, are fairly well known, and then we execute through them. That's easy. I made the right phone calls at the right time. You know, it's happened other times where you can't reach anybody and you can't figure it out. And it can be a real struggle. I agree. I don't fully know how to answer your question, except for, you know, again, it's finding that trusted partner, and how to go about that is starts everywhere from just going to city council, sort of city hall meetings, you know, town meetings, and asking people in the community and telling them what you're looking to do, talking to the mayor's office in the various communities, and then Googling nonprofits in the area and trying to see who's doing what. You know, I've learned a lot about from STEM education programs that are going on, from just going to AGU and looking at all the posters and trying to figure it out, and then contacting people. It's a lot of groundwork. It's worth it. It takes a lot of time though, and that's tough. We don't all have a lot of time, right? And so I'm lucky that I have a company that supports me investing some of my work hours into this, and so it's been a little bit easier for me. I don't know that answers your question the way that you were hoping maybe I could, but
No, that's great. It's just an ongoing conversation. So thank you very much.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I'd love to continue that conversation. If you ever want to, just let me know. You're in Fairbanks, right?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's talk in a couple of weeks. We'll be up there. I work closely with the university up there, and we'll be up there here in a couple of weeks.
Great.
Well, we're down to our last 3 minutes. Kaya, do you want to go around ask if there are any questions, any announcements from anybody attending?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Thank you very much, Forrest. That was a super presentation, and thanks everybody for your interest, engagement, and questions. And does anyone have announcements for this community? One of the things we're trying to achieve is building a community of practice among those interested in STEM and STEAM in the Arctic. So anything anyone has to share?
Hi. So I just wanted to let people know about education program that BOEM spun up last year. It's a partnership with the Alaska Center for Coastal Studies based out of Homer. It's not currently in the Arctic yet. It's in Homer and Anchor Point, but figured I'd tell y'all anyway, because we're, you know, interested in potentially expanding to the Arctic, trying to figure that out. So in this program, it's currently classroom-based, and students build their own CTDs, and then they are also building, they're called mini boat drifters. So they're drifter boats. They're outfitted with some instrumentation, and then they deploy those CTDs in Cook Inlet around Homer, and have launched the mini boat drifter a couple times, and it is currently on the Tekla, and the Fish and Wildlife Service is gonna launch it from the Aleutians. So that's exciting. And I put a link to some info about the mini boat drifter there. So like I said, lots of overlap with some of the programs you talked about, Forrest. So thanks.
Thank you, Christina. Anyone else? And I'll just note, Christina put a note in the chat about putting together a resource list of Alaska education nonprofits that perhaps we could put on the website. And Lisa Rome and I have been talking about how we can generate some resource consolidation within IARPC. So that is something that we're working on, and we'll add your suggestion to that list, Christina. Back to you, Lisa or Meredith.
Thanks.
This is
Oh, go ahead,
Forrest. Quick question. Well, I'm going to be attending with a colleague in Juneau here at the end of the month, Polar Education I think it's a NSF workshop, Polar Education. If anybody's there, I'd love to meet with. I'll be there for the first 2 days, not the last day, but the first 2.
Great, thanks. Glad you're going to be there. Any more comments? Any last? Okay.
Just a note that oh, go ahead.
Just to confirm, Forrest, you said that Battelle only can give to nonprofits, or can they give to universities?
Universities have a nonprofit foundations, so they can give to universities. We are cautious because universities some foundations like to tack on that 30-40% sort of overhead thing on there, which can take away a lot of money from STEM. So we normally negotiate with them up front about that. It's one thing if that's on a program, it's a whole nother thing when you're donating money to kids, right? So we talk to them about that. But yeah, we can, normally they have a nonprofit arm, depending on the school. So schools, nonprofits, and then foundations. Yeah. It just needs to be
Thank
a
you.
501c3.
Okey-doke.
The recording for this meeting will be posted probably by the end of the day today, and I'll also post notes with links, all the links that were shared.
Great, thank you. And welcome to Janet. Janet Warburton joined us. Janet, you want to introduce yourself real quick? So,
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was listening about halfway through, but didn't have my video on. Janet Warburton with the Arctic Research Consortium of the United States. I do education program management for ARCIS. And so while you were talking, Forrest, I just put some links to some of the people that might not know about the resources that already exist, centered around education and working with different cultures in the far north. And I did have one note. I think it was, you said you were headed to that meeting in Juneau. We do have a Fuller Trek teacher that will be attending in person, Erin Towns. So hopefully you get to meet her. I'll be attending virtually as well. So meet you virtually.
Great, just wrote that down. Thank you so much. I'll look for Erin.
And she's an amazing photographer, and she's really fun.
okay, we're a few minutes over, but I think this was such a great discussion, and thank you, Forrest, for being here to explain your programs. I think there's going to be some follow-up, I hope, and we're going to hold these quarterly meetings and hopefully expand our community. And this was our first start on this effort, and our next one is October 4th. Okay,
Yes.
so we'll be sending out an announcement about that. And if anybody has suggestions for speakers, we'd love to hear that too. All right.
Lisa, keep me on the list. I'd love to join.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Right.